So in tutorial 3, we're going to look at an overview of global patterns and trends in the availability and consumption of water, including embedded water in food and manufactured goods. A really important concept here. So the first thing we want to look at then is this global pattern of water consumption, and it's shown here in the water footprint per capita, so per person, in meters cubed per year. And in purple, we can see the regions which consume above global average water consumption. And in greens down to blue, we see the regions which have lower levels of per capita water consumption. So interestingly, China, which has many reported cases of water scarcity and water problems, still has one of the lowest per capita consumption of water. And it still has a large rural population that consumes low levels of water. Again, we see this north-south divide, so the northern hemisphere, western developed countries, Eurasia, all consuming vast quantities of water per capita. And then we see in the south, we see lower levels of consumption, mainly here in kind of central, eastern and southern regions of Africa, where we have low levels of water consumption. And this is, of course, linked to the types of industries which we see in these countries, the importance of agriculture, the availability of water in those countries, the level of consumption in those countries in terms of also embedded water. So some countries are highly dependent on water imports. Look, Kuwait, 87% of its water comes from imports. And even countries, like a maritime temperate climate like Belgium, you'd expect, well, why is that the case? It actually is a drier country than you think. 80% of its water imported, and perhaps historically a lack of investment there in water storage capacity. And the highest water footprints per capita, well, USA, 2,483 meters cubed per year. And they have a 19% import dependency. Different countries with varying high levels. And it might be here to do with perhaps kind of cultural use of water, attitudes to water conservation. And then in a country like Malaysia, it might be more to do with the importance of agriculture, the importance of irrigation systems and the dominance of that within that country. So quite a mixed range of countries there in terms of their water footprints. And so we'll have a look at embedded water. This is the water that is used in the production of goods and foods. So the syllabus refers to manufactured goods like these down below, as well as foods. And so an incredible amount. I feel so guilty about this one. I'm a big chocoholic, and look at the amount of water that's used in a single kilogram of chocolate. Almost, well, is it double? Not quite double that for beef. I'm well aware of my beef consumption, try to make efforts to reduce that. Oh gosh, do I need to be thinking about this one? So why is this so high? Well, it's more to do with the cocoa production that goes into chocolate, the sugar production that goes into chocolate, the amount of water that requires, and then in the manufacturing process again, the water that goes into processing that and manufacturing chocolate. So embedded chocolate is quite an interesting concept, and it increases our water footprints as consumers of these products. So, water, the highest renewable water resources are shown here. So some countries have got really quite good water resources. But the big problem here is that there is a water scarcity issue. There is a water stress. So more than 2.8 billion people across 48 countries will face water stress and scarcity conditions by 2025. And by 2050, this will rise to 7 billion. So what we need to become aware of here is our consumer habits, our reliance on water within these commodities, and we need to seek efficiencies where we can. This is a picture of Europeans' embedded water imports. You can see actually, due to its global supply chain of food and manufactured goods, we see an enormous amount of imports of embedded water. Look at Brazil here, be thinking here, but perhaps of soya production, perhaps agricultural food commodities that come out of Brazil, heavily reliant on water. That is an imported embedded water. Again, if we look at China, we saw earlier, didn't we, that China has relatively low levels of per capita water consumption. And what we see then in at the national scale or regional scale within China, there's a very mixed picture. So this here is looking at kind of water shortage risk. We have extreme high risk in some areas, the industrial east. And as we move westwards across China, we see lower risk. And so actually water consumption varies across China, and water scarcity and water risk varies.